The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the individuals participating in the show. All persons described or mentioned in the podcast should be considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. This podcast contains subject matter such as violence and graphic descriptions along with adult language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
On February 18th, 2020, a young woman logs into her Facebook account from a friend's phone. Later that day, she disappears without a trace. She has never been seen again. Where is she? You're listening to the Mysterious Brews podcast, and tonight we're bringing you the case of Jessica Dietzel.
I feel like I'm broken in two.
A mother's worst nightmare has continued for 3 months with not many clues to help find Jessica Dietzel.
Still at just ground zero.
Christina Johnson's cries for help have gained national attention.
Where is Jessica?
So latest development, we're continuously interviewing friends and associates of Jessica.
Welcome to a deep, dark, dank, moist basement somewhere in the bowels of Georgia. I should have said yellow-colored basement because guess what? It's pollen season.
Dude, I want to know what the hell happened to winter, man. I remember fondly as a child
Having snow days in February.
having snow days at all. I didn't give a fuck when it was. And we're at the anniversary of, this is the 30th anniversary, almost to the day of the blizzard in Georgia. That was some shit, bro. March 93. I heard on the radio, it was like, be prepared for a little snow. And I was like, cool, I like snow. And then 3.5 feet later, I was like, okay, well, I got it. I'm cool.
Yeah, I was thinking you growing up north of me, y'all had it worse than us, but I was working at the old mall, man. It was the cool place. And so a buddy of mine had showed up. I got off at 9. We walked outside, and it is
God, you're old. I
coming,
was a child.
coming down. He was going to go to my house. We were going to watch some kind of game. I don't remember what we were going to watch. But anyway, it's starting to stick on the roads, and we get to my house, and my dad comes running out, and he yells at him. He's like, don't pull in the driveway. It's slicker now. Shit, turn around, get home. You got to get home. So, we lose power. We don't have power for like 7 days. And so when I finally get back in touch with him, he's like, man, I slid off the road 4 times that night trying to get home. So the blizzard of 30 years, man, 30 years. It's hard to believe. Seems like yesterday. Seems like yesterday I was trying to get home.
Seems like yesterday.
What were you, 8?
But it was long ago. Wait, 93, I was 12.
Okay.
11. I was 11. But yeah. You know what sucks? What I've always heard, and it's true, is the older you get, the sadder fucking Bob Seger songs get.
That is true. That is very true.
Every fucking one of them. Like a rock.
Steady as I can breathe.
And then Against the Wind, fuck, man.
Yeah.
Come on. That is,
Yep.
shit. That is a sad fucking song.
Some bear drinking songs right there. Some bear drinking. All right, so let's.
No, I don't like to be sad when I drink.
I don't
if I
either.
get sad when I drink, I tend to really,
Overdrink?
really.
Overdrink?
No, really. Well, I overdrink every time anyway.
Yeah, I did that.
You know that.
I did that this weekend.
I tend to really, really cry, you know.
There's that moment when you're drinking for a good part of the day, you know you need to stop, but you start just powering through them. So let's get after it. This is a head scratcher. Unlike last week's episode where we had some legit police work, this one is going to be a total shit show.
It was legit police work last week?
Well, I mean, we had we talked about the 2 or 3 good investigators that didn't give 2 shits about the Murdaughs or where they're from or how much money they had. So,
Well, that's true.
This one I have yet to find. Well, there is one agency, and we'll get to that when we get down there, so we'll just do it. This one's from our home state, boys and girls, and disclaimer, there's going to be a lot of foul.
I don't think I've ever been to Albany.
You ain't missed nothing.
Have you ever been to Albany?
Yeah, unfortunately I have. Buddy of mine used to work down there.
I don't think I've ever been to Albany.
Buddy of mine used to work down there at the Caterpillar heavy diesel equipment shop. He was the manager, so he moved down there. He moved all over the state, but anyway, yeah, the great city of Albany. If you've never been, you've not missed anything. Anyway, Jessica VanZant Dietzel was born on June 23rd, 1997, to her mother and father, Mark and Christina Johnson. Jessica was the only girl to 3 brothers and automatically a daddy's girl. And according to her family and friends, she had aspirations of auditioning for American Idol. She was said to have a huge heart and tried to see the best in everyone she knows. Christina and Mark had a rocky marriage, with both battling substance abuse throughout Jessica's childhood. When Jessica was 5 years old, Christina had finally had enough after 12 years of a tumultuous marriage, and she filed a restraining order against Mark, got clean, filed for divorce, and decided she was not going back. Christina would take the children to a cousin's house to get back on her feet, and despite the restraining order, Mark found out where she and the kids were staying and showed up. Police were called, and a high-speed chase ensued. Eventually, Mark is arrested and placed in the old Popo box. According to Christina, Mark was placed on suicide watch and eventually convinced the powers that be that he was no longer suicidal. Mark was moved to a regular cell, and using his bed sheets, he hung himself. Now, Jessica was distraught because her daddy meant the world to her, despite the way he treated her mother. She still believed that he could do no wrong. In high school, while she was only 17, Jessica fell for the older bad boy, a 21-year-old young man named Kenny Dietzel, or Kenneth Dietzel. That's his government name.
Well, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just realized that I could probably contribute more to this podcast if I actually plugged my fucking microphone in. So if I sounded a little distant.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. We are trained professionals.
If I sounded a little distant, it's because I'm sitting here like mouth fucking this microphone and it's not even plugged in. I did the intro that way too. We may have to redo it.
I don't think so. It sounded okay. When you would lean back, it was a little distant, but I didn't think anything about it. So anyway.
Well, I'm fat and I got a bad back. I have to lean back every so often.
I wasn't bitching. I just was making an observation.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Now, Kenny had bounced from foster parent to foster parent and the occasional group home, but when he met Jessica, he had his own place. Now, Kenny was very well known in the town of Albany, Georgia. And more specifically, he was known as a main player in the drug trade. Kenny was in love, and so was Jessica. And before too long, Jessica found herself pregnant. Just barely 18 in 2017, she would give birth to a beautiful daughter named Elena. For a while, it seemed as if Elena was a godsend for Jessica and Kenny. Both would go to school, get regular jobs, and ultimately they would get married. The couple would move into a home on Allen Avenue in Leesburg, Georgia, where Jessica's dream of the all-American family would start to take shape. She wanted Elena to have both parents in the same house. This would cause Jessica to turn her head to certain activities of Kenny's, but she felt like it was the right thing to do so that Elena would not have to go through life not having daddy at home all the time. Kenny's history of drugs would ultimately swallow him and Jessica both up. Jessica eventually started using and spiraled out of control and became hooked on meth and heroin. Just like her parents, Jessica and Kenny's relationship would take the brunt of their combined drug use. When they would fight, it would get nasty. On one occasion, Jessica decided to go stay at a local motel, and Kenny followed her. He went live on a local Albany social media page, taunting Jessica. Now, this video is still out there if you are willing to search for it. I was not, so I took the liberty of whoever had seen it last, and they described it as Kenny laughing and yelling at Jessica, proclaiming that she is a, quote, ratified, pussified junkie, asking her to come over there to him, asking her if she wants some heroin, calling her a whore. Then he proceeds to yell whore over and over and over. You know, fine, upstanding daddy stuff.
Yeah, that's how you make your point, though. I mean, honestly.
If you just say it enough times.
Yeah, if you can't win an argument, you just spam the word whore as many times as you can, you know?
Yeah. Now, while Kenny is doing all of this, Jessica's walking around the motel parking lot trying not to respond. As she walks by the motel office, you can hear Kenny yell something to the effect of, quote, you hoping someone in there will call the police for you, whore, end quote. You can also see in the video that Jessica is on the phone. She is not calling the police, however. She is calling someone to come and get her and take her away from the situation. Jessica would eventually get a restraining order on Kenny, but just like the paper they're written on, it was useless. Kenny violated the restraining order time and time again, and when Jessica would call the police to report it, she would be told that she, quote, needed to prove Kenny violated the order, end quote. They must do things a little different down there. I know it was right before COVID in 2020, but I don't think that's how a restraining order works. I think it's not your responsibility to have to prove the person you took it out on is violating it. But anyway, Call me crazy. So Jessica, the victim, now had to do the police's job by somehow getting evidence that Kenny was stalking and harassing her. She eventually calls the police and does away with the order because it's too much of a fucking hassle. Kenny would see Jessica driving down the road one day after she had done away with the restraining order, and he decided that it would be a good idea to turn around and try to run Jessica off the road. Not knowing whether she had their daughter in the car, he just decides, hey, I'm going to run her off the road. Somehow, Jessica manages to keep it between the ditches and pulls into the nearest business. Staff and security video witness that before Jessica can even get out of her vehicle, Kenny has pulled in behind her, jumps out of his, leaves the door open, and starts beating on her window, screaming and cussing her. But finally, there was undisputable evidence that he was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Aren't we all, though?
We are, but I've been mad before, but I don't think I've ever been mad enough to just try to run someone off the road. But it may be the fact that I'm just old and I don't give a shit anymore. But needless to say, with the CCTV footage and the testimony of the business staff, good old Kenny was charged with aggravated stalking. Not only could he not go near Jessica, but he was also told that he could no longer go near his daughter, Elena. Kenny is not having it and decides that he will contact DFACS. That would be the Department of Family and Child Services for anyone not living in the state of Georgia. And he would tell the DFACS local office what a horrible mother Jessica was to Elena. He even videos himself walking into the local DFACS office.
What's the point in videoing yourself walking in? That's just stupid.
Look, he's a few bricks shy.
Are we really at this stage of social media that you have to document walking into DFACS? That's pathetic.
Oh, it's going to get much worse. So I'm going to need you to get you breathing on. Woosah.
Well, considering you told me you had like 16 pages of notes over a case that I thought was going to be pretty short, I was like, oh, well, it must get thick in here. So I'm ready.
It going to get thick. So each time DFACS would go out, they would come back and report accusations were unfounded. Now, I have to give DFACS some credit here, well, especially the one that he's going into. They're overworked, underpaid, and have huge caseloads, which does not excuse them turning a blind eye to child abuse at all.
Sounds like a special ed teacher, though. We wouldn't know anything about that, would we?
I would not know anything about being overworked and underpaid.
And a huge caseload.
Yeah. So there are horror stories out there about defects offices and things like that, but this office does investigate, knowing damn well that he's making up a lot of this stuff. And they document that they did go out there and they put on the reports. Accusations are unfounded. But Kenny is a persistent little shit, and he decides that he's going to keep calling defects. Well, he hits gold on his last call, and Jessica was in a bad situation. And when he called, defects went out just like they had before, ready to say accusations were unfounded, but they find her not in a good state. So they have to take Elena away from Jessica and place her in emergency foster placement. Now, her mother, Christina, had told Jessica that her and Elena could move in with her as long as Jessica would stop doing drugs and get a job. Well,
God, it's like, come on, man. Like, really? I can't live with these rules, man.
And that's the thing, man. Her mama had lived the life, I think, is why she had that hard stance and she had that tough love for her. She had been where Jessica was at. She knew she had raised a daughter that was strong enough to make the change. She felt like that her holding steadfast to this rule would force her hand. And I don't know, man. You know, as a parent, you question damn near everything. But Christina,
I wouldn't know.
Christina, that you know of. Christina finds out.
Fingers crossed.
Christina finds out that Elena has been placed in foster care, and she starts the process of having her placed with her. This takes 2 months. 2 months, little Elena is in foster care. But eventually, Christina gets custody, and Elena gets to go live with her grandmother. Jessica, always looking for the good parts of people, starts thinking that she can change Kenny. If he would just see the good parts of himself and what he has to offer her and Elena. Jessica, once again, does away with the restraining order, which I don't know how that can work since they charged him with aggravated stalking. But anyway, it did. Thinking that this time her and Kenny were going to make it work. This was the last time, this was the one that was going to stick. Now, at the same time that Jessica's trying to patch things up with Kenny, she's also going through the reunification process with DFAX so that she could get Elena back with her. DFAX allows Jessica supervised visits with Elena at the local Burger King. And Jessica never missed a visit. While Jessica had stated that she was doing away with all her restraining orders against Kenny, DFAX was like, hey, that's cool and all, but he still can't come near Elena. Now, while, like I said, DFAX is a total shit show when it comes down to it, they got...
Oh, yeah, we've done a case about it where
I
can't remember her name, and I'm very sad that I can't remember her name, but we did a whole episode where a woman was murdered because she was kind of exposing how fucked up the DFAX was.
Yes, and it
she
may
was
not
a
be...
state senator in Georgia.
Correct.
Look for it in the archives. Fucked if I know what it's called.
It's like episode 40, I think, so if you want to scroll back as I keep going, you just blurt in there, Coach.
Okay, I'll look it up.
Now, it may
right
not be called DFAX in your state. It may be called something else, but it stands for the Department of Family and Child Services. And down here in Georgia, we just call it DFAX. We just put an A in there. Facts. Anyway, back to it. They get this one right. They are protecting Elena. They're making sure that Jessica's dotting every I and crossing every T with this reunification process. And for the most part, I can't say anything bad about that local DFAX office. Now, for some ungodly reason, inexplicable to all known humankind, Jessica decides one day that it would be a good idea to bring Kenny to one of the supervised visits. However, on the way to the Burger King, Jessica and Kenny get into what was called at the time, quote, a domestic dispute. According to Christina, Jessica's mother, The argument erupted into Kenny beating Jessica over the head with a gun while Jessica is driving down the road. Now, upon arriving at Burger King, the caseworker sees Jessica and is dumbfounded. The caseworker explains that not only can Kenny not be present, but she can clearly see that Jessica has had the hell beat out of her. Elena is whisked away and Jessica is brought back to court so that the judge can re-explain to her the process of the reunification program. The judge terminates all visits with Elena until Jessica can prove that she's getting the help she needs. So in October of 2019, Jessica checks into rehab. This lasts about a week, I think, because she winds up meeting a girl at rehab and they decide that they're just going to blow the old popsicle stand and they leave. And they tell their respective families that they were, quote, kicked out. Well, knowing that they were going to rehab, the families investigate and determine that no, they were not kicked out. They left on their own free will. Now, Jessica's family is very supportive of her and her willingness to attend rehab until they get the bullshit excuse that she was kicked out. Her family makes the hard decision to stop enabling her. Christina goes through hell in those 2 months to get Elena placed with her and tells Jessica that she could no longer come and see Elena if she was not drug-free. She would not risk it for Elena's sake. And good for Christina. As a parent, it has to be one of the hardest things that you would have to do to keep your child's child away from them. But Christina stood steadfast. And for that, she deserves a round of applause. I don't have the canned applause.
I agree 100%.
Now, Kenny goes back to the well of reporting to DFACS about Elena's treatment and living conditions, but this time the brunt of the calls are focused on Christina. Kenny was telling DFACS that Christina was allowing Jessica to, quote, sneak visits with Elena. DFACS does their due diligence and finds the accusations false. But just like before, Kenny is a determined little piece of shit, so the accusations continue to pour in. That is, until old Kenny gets his ass arrested on drugs and weapons charges, and then those calls cease. Now, when Kenny would find himself on the wrong side of the plexiglass, he was unable to abuse Jessica verbally and physically. The two would rekindle their love, and their relationship would turn to rainbows and unicorn farts.
Really?
Yes. Jessica would put money on his commissary. He would tell her how great she was and how pretty she was and how he was going to change this time when he got out. And Jessica decided that he must be telling the truth, so she goes and gets a new tattoo that read Kenny Man on her collarbone. On one side of her chest, she has her daughter's name, Elena, with a butterfly, and on the other side, she has Kenny Man. So during this entire time that he has found himself in jail, Jessica is rocketing towards the abyss. Let's try that again, folks. With Kenny in jail, she found herself without a vehicle, no place to stay, no job, no phone. So Jessica would couch surf where she could and crash in a tent when nothing else was available. And yes, there was a tent city in Albany.
Yeah, that sounds miserable to me, man.
I don't like volunteering to go camping.
I don't camp. I just don't.
I've not camped since I was 22, and I'm almost 48. I'm not going to do it again unless there's an apocalypse.
I do love that Ron White joke, which is when you mention the apocalypse, though, that's true. I have a go bag. I have everything I need to survive an apocalypse in the woods if I have to, other than the knowledge.
That's me.
If I die in the woods, it's because I'm an idiot, not because I wasn't prepared.
That's right.
I just didn't know how to hunt and fish and all that shit. But I love that Ron White joke when he's like, man, I love Garth Brooks. I camped out for 4 days to get Garth Brooks tickets. He's like, really? I wouldn't camp for 4 days if I was camping. Like, not happening, man. I'm not a camper.
No, like the guys on Necronomipod say, why camp when there's a beautiful hotel room somewhere with air conditioning and heat?
Oh, and a freaking mini bar that will charge you $9,000 for a Heineken.
That's correct. That is correct.
Sidebar. I've only been to one hotel that had a mini bar, but I didn't know how they worked. I thought it was just a refrigerator, and I was in Chicago. I was there to see David Gilmour from Pink Floyd play. I went by myself. They upgraded me. My 23-year-old dumbass. They're like, we got a suite for you. I'm like, well, okay.
Sweet.
They had a mini bar, and I went and I got some pizza, some deep dish pizza, whatever. And there was no room in the mini bar to keep my pizza, nice and cold.
So you had to take some of those liquid beverages out.
So I removed almost all of it and put my pizza in there. I didn't know that there were electronic sensors.
No shit.
And
back then too.
Yeah. Yeah. Back then, shit, it was 2006, 2005, maybe. It wasn't 1974 when you were in high school, but.
Oh, that was 1 year before I was born.
Yeah, I go to check out, and they're like, okay, we just got to settle the bill. And I was like, I've already paid. And they're like, no, the mini bar bill. And I'm like, I drank 2 beers in 4 days. I'm like, okay, how much is it? And they were like, $847.
Holy shit.
I'm like, what? And they read out everything that I had done, and I'm like, no. I was like, I put a deep dish pizza in there. I'm like, I just took those out to make room. They're on the counter.
I can show you right now. Come with me.
Yeah, I literally had to go show them. But I was like, I can't pay that. Anyway, I have no idea what we're talking about.
We started this tangent on Tent City. Yeah. Well,
yeah, that totally. Homeless
Tent City, deep dish pizza, $800.
Parlays right into. Oh, I got a suite at a hotel in Chicago. I mean, come on. Of course it does.
Oh, Chicago. Now, Albany is not the place for a down-and-out 21-year-old, and meth and heroin are king, and the crime rate when Jessica was homeless was higher than Atlanta's. Well, Atlanta found out about that and said, here, hold my beer. But back then, Albany was worse than Atlanta when it came to crime. Albany still ranks.
Worse than Atlanta?
Yes, sir. That's is in
bad.
2020. Albany still
that means it's bad.
ranks as the 5th worst town to live in the state of Georgia. While drugs are king in Albany, it is a tight-knit group of criminals. Jessica was always able to find someone who would allow her to borrow a phone so that she could check in with her family and post on Facebook. She did this on the daily. With Kenny in jail for several months, and despite having Kenny Man tattooed on her collarbone, Jessica would move on to another man. Now,
if you get the name of your significant other tattooed on you, you can pretty much kiss that relationship goodbye.
Yeah, I think the batting average is like 975 for that. It's just one of those unwritten rules. You got a 99%
number.
Yeah,
the batting average for a divorce rate it's Hall of Fame numbers.
Yeah. I mean, it's up there. You got a better shot of getting struck by lightning. All right, so moving forward, when I researched this, I was able to find most of my information when this case was very new. And so there are a lot of pseudonym names for people. These people's real God-given names have been released, and so if you're like, who the hell is he talking about? Just understand, I am still using the pseudonym name. So this other man is referred to as, we're going to call him PJ. And his real name, I'm sure Jessica's Facebook page is still active. If you wanted to, you could get on there now and probably find out who PJ really was, and that's fine if you want to do that. But PJ had his own mobile home, and Jessica finally found someone that had a reliable roof to provide for her, and that was a godsend. However, PJ didn't come without some baggage. He was 45 and she's 21, and he had a criminal rap sheet that went back way before Jessica was born. Jessica's family was extremely concerned about her, and her brothers and cousins would allow her to stay with them when she needed to. They had some peace of mind with the fact that Jessica always checked in on Elena daily with their mother, Christina, and she would keep most all of the family updated as to where she was and how she was doing. Now, fast forward to February of 2020. On February 4th, Jessica would use Facebook Messenger to call her mom. During the conversation, Christina begged her to go back to rehab so that she could be the mom she wanted to be to Elena. Instead of the usual quote, "You're right, I want to, I need to," Jessica would tell her mom that she had to stay away to protect Elena. Now, at the time, Christina just chalked it up to Jessica being high or sleep deprived. Unbeknownst to Christina, however, this would be the last time she ever spoke to Jessica. Now, days came and went with no communication from Jessica. Christina stated that she was sending Jessica messages every day for 10 straight days with no response. The messages would register, quote, read, but no responses. Christina's motherly intuition kicks in, and she has the gut feeling that something is not right. After Christina was contacted by her sons asking if she had heard from Jessica, Christina gets another message from one of Jessica's cousins asking if she had heard from Jessica. The cousin tells Christina that the last contact she had with Jessica was around February 14th when she messaged her to let her know that Kenny had been released on bond. Jessica responded to her cousin telling her to, quote, let Kenny know where I am staying, and it's with PJ. Hey guys, Arlo here, and if you are struggling with the old caffeine in the morning, I have got the fix for you. It is called Magic Mind, and it is just a little 2-ounce shot that you drink with your coffee or your energy drinks in the morning. It is chock full of greatness, and it will get you focused, and it really actually has the L-theanine, and that lowers your cortisol hormone, which helps absorb that caffeine that you're intaking. Now, Magic Mind has nootropics, adaptogens, matcha green tea, and 12 magical ingredients. That matcha boosts your energy. The adaptogens help with relaxation, and the nootropics keep you focused. A bonus is that it has vitamins C and D along with the echinacea to help your immunity. So head over to magicmind.co/brews and enter the promo code BREWS20. That is brews20, BREWS20, and that will give you a 20% off coupon for either a one-time purchase or subscription to a monthly dose of Magic Mind. Now, March 1st, Christina contacts the Albany Police Department and reports Jessica missing. She asked the police to meet her at PJ's trailer because that's where she had last known Jessica to be. Christina heads over to PJ's trailer and would wait for 3 hours before an officer arrived at PJ's home. The officer would knock on the door continuously without any responses. This goes on for a couple of minutes. And as the officer and Christina are walking towards their vehicles, a man on a bicycle rides by and says, quote, y'all know he's inside watching you on the security cameras, right? End quote.
Huh.
Yeah.
Security cameras on a trailer?
Hey, it's a rough neighborhood, man. Now, Christina is having a full-blown panic attack, thinking about Jessica being inside that trailer, not able to come to the door. She informs the officer that PJ had some outstanding warrants, hoping that that would be all the officer needed to kick the door in and find out if her daughter was inside. According to Christina, the Albany police officer did not take the missing persons report that day. Then they give her some piss poor excuse that Jessica was exhibiting, quote, typical addict behavior and that they would put out a bolo for her.
That's ridiculous. What's typical addict behavior?
That's where I felt my ears starting to get red. And for those of you that don't know the lingo, bolo means be on the lookout for. You ain't never watched Dukes of Hazzard?
Oh, you know I have.
So,
You're talking about the movie, right?
Both of them.
No, I never watched the show.
Now, every week there's something else you just let go of that I'm like, how?
I'm not from the South, man. I was born here and raised here, but apparently I'm not from here because I didn't watch that. I don't eat okra and grits and all that shit.
I don't eat grits.
You don't eat grits?
Hell no. I don't eat gravy either.
What?
No,
You don't like gravy? You don't like biscuits and gravy?
No.
Oh, hell no. You getting your damn you're getting your Southern ID revoked, son.
You can't tell
You a
me.
Yankee.
No.
You a Yankee. There's no way.
I have a gravy story, and if anyone follows Cigar Store Idiots podcast, I have told that story on that podcast before. I do not see.
I don't listen to that shit.
I know you don't. I will have to tell you off air, so not to.
Oh, tell us now.
No. We will lose
Some of
millions of
listeners don't listen to
followers.
Cigar Store Idiots.
We will lose millions of followers.
We don't have we got hundreds of followers. Come on, man.
All right, I'll give you the PG version. The PG version was I was going to the old college known as 13th and 14th grade, headed towards Cedartown, Georgia. And there was a Hardee's across the street. And there was a guy that just loved their gravy and biscuits. And so this is how long ago I started college. They actually still had a cafeteria with women that worked there that made homemade biscuits and gravy, and you could get any kind of biscuit you wanted. Fried bologna, tomato biscuit, anything you could think of, them women would whip it up for you. So I didn't see the need to go to Hardee's. Well, this guy just raved about Hardee's gravy and biscuit.
And they probably called you honey.
Oh, yeah. And they'd wink at you. I put some extra bacon on that bacon, egg, and cheese.
What you want, honey?
But anyway,
hell yeah.
So about 4 months rocks on, and we were like old men sitting there eating breakfast, and we were reading the paper, and they had to arrest one of the cooks at the Hardee's across the street. He was putting some DNA matter in the gravy.
Oh, no.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'll give you a pass on that. Yeah, I can see how that could. Yeah,
I'm not eating gravy
completely. Yeah, nah. I'll make it at home.
Yeah,
if I'm gonna have it.
If I'm gonna have it, I'll just go ahead and do it here.
All right, I'll give you a pass on that. Okay, you're good.
All right, I cleaned that up real good because I can tell you for about 2 weeks we had some nasty jokes for old boy that liked gravy and biscuits. So there you go.
Awful.
Yes. Okay, so back at it. Christina knew something was up because A, she knew her daughter, and B, Elena's birthday was coming up in 2 days, and she hadn't heard from Jessica. Add all of that to the fact that the last time she checked in with Jessica, she had that odd comment. And last time I checked, it didn't matter whether you were an addict or not. You were still a fucking human being. And the police The police should have taken the missing persons report. But if you think that's the only thing they fucked up, hold on.
Well, I'm just saying you assume so much about police. Man, if you're an addict, man, they don't give a shit about you. Like they really don't.
This story about Jessica parallels the women of the Jennings 8 so bad. It has some of the same ties. It has some of the same drug overtones and shadowy figures and shit. It's just how police can just look down on that group of individuals knowing they are trapped in this vicious cycle of drugs, it just boggles my mind. But anyway, so Christina is hardly getting any sleep during this whole time. She's getting the running around from Albany PD because she's doing addict stuff. She'll come back. She goes to her local sheriff's department. She actually lives in Lee County, Georgia, and Albany resides in Dougherty County, Georgia. So the deputies at Lee County take Christina's story very seriously, noting that there had been no contact from Jessica to anyone they could find in over a week. So Lee County Sheriff's Office takes the missing persons report. They give Christina a business card and tell her to take it to the lead investigator at Albany Police Department and instruct her to give that lead investigator the card that they are giving her. Well, whatever was on it, whatever magic it had in it, it worked. So on March 2nd, 2020, Jessica is officially listed as missing with both the Lee County Sheriff's Office and the Albany Police Department. They are both working her case. Both departments begin the process by contacting surrounding jails to see if she was in a holding cell, and they contact the local hospitals and surrounding hospitals to see if Jessica could have come in as a Jane Doe. She was not incarcerated, and she was not in the hospital. Authorities start tracking down Jessica's friends and acquaintances, and at the same time this is going on the law enforcement side, you have Jessica's family trying to find out what's going on, and they are finally able to get into Jessica's Facebook account and discover that the last contact she had with anyone was on February 18th of 2020. That is 12 days that between the last time anyone had contact with her and Christina trying to report her missing. So on February 17th, they find that Jessica logs into her Facebook account using another person's phone. And this other person is a person of interest as of April of last year, I believe. But like I said, at the time I was doing my research, they were using pseudonyms, so we're just going to call him the guy that let her borrow a phone. So anyway.
Wow, you are creative, sir.
Yeah. So she borrows this old boy's phone, and from the phone, Jessica messages several people. The last message was to a male friend that is still unnamed, I believe. And in this message, she tells him that she is staying at the Deep South Motel and, quote, it got out, end quote. Jessica's family does not know what that is in reference to. And the Deep South Motel, well, it has a reputation of being a hub for prostitution and other debauchery circling around drugs. Now, according to those that have seen the message, it appears that she sent this unnamed guy some sort of coded message. And I actually found the message, and so we'll discuss that in a little bit.
Oh, snap.
I know, man. So what it is anyone's guess. And it is kind of coded, but there are some theories out there. What we know for certain is that just past midnight on February 18th of 2020, Jessica is at the Deep South Motel. The guy she messages stating, quote, that it got out, tried returning her call around 10 a.m. on the 18th, but got no response. On the surface, it appears that the guy she messaged and called near midnight would be the last person to have contact with Jessica. However, if you keep in mind that she is using someone else's phone to access her Facebook and Messenger, the guy she borrows the phone from would actually be the last person to see Jessica. So police are extremely interested in speaking with the old boy that allowed Jessica to use his phone. When he hears that they would like to speak with him concerning Jessica, he lawyers up, which is, as we have stated in the past, guilty or not guilty, probably the smartest thing you can do. Police do file a search warrant for the phone and get the information, and they start chasing down every place the phone pinged from. But there was no luck, any of the spots with anyone having seen Jessica. So authorities would get a tip that Jessica would sometimes visit two men at the tent city just off Radium Springs Road, which borders the Flint River in Albany. However, just like every other shitty luck that's been going on in this case, at the time Jessica's reported missing, Albany is experiencing severe flooding, and the Flint River is way beyond its flood stage and banks. So when they go to see this tent city, it's basically underwater, and everyone that had been there has fled to higher ground. Now, one of the men from Tent City was what we like to call in the South the sidewalk corner preachers. And he was responsible with raising money, building Tent City up. He had even gotten enough funds and enough donations that there were actually a couple of buildings on the property that had electricity. Now, come to find out, this man had become close with Jessica when she would visit Tent City and actually knew Christina because they went to high school or went to the same high school. I don't think they were friends, but he kind of knew of her. So when the waters started to rise, the Tent City preacher found himself a church that allowed him to stay in one of their outbuildings. Authorities eventually find him, and he explains that it had been weeks since he had seen Jessica. He explains that during her last visit, she had told him that she was, quote, afraid of someone. He did not know who the person was and was pretty sure Jessica never called the person by name. This man has been an open book to Christina and authorities, and he has basically told them everything, let them search his property. He even gave them access to his phone. Authorities would corroborate his story by determining the last time he had contact with Jessica was February 3rd, and this is the day before she tells Christina that she was, quote, staying away to protect Elena, end quote. Now, the other guy that she would visit at Tent City had left when the floodwaters rose, and he was now staying behind a seafood restaurant. Now, he's been referred to as fish guy, seafood house guy, seafood tent guy, fish tent guy. Name him whatever you want to. He's staying behind a seafood restaurant. I'm going to call him the Christmas lights tent, because when authorities find him, he is living in a tent behind the seafood restaurant, but he has Christmas lights all over it with some homemade artwork on it. He tells the police that he has not seen Jessica in weeks, and she was, quote, banned from the seafood restaurant property. Authorities investigate this supposed banning and find nothing. So on February 13th of 2020, old Christmas light tent boy takes a photo of Jessica inside his tent. These pictures were found on his phone when he allows Jessica's mother, Christina, to look at it. Now, as Christina and her friend Leah are asking him about Jessica, they notice a backpack hanging up near the rear of the tent. And they just ask, hey, what's inside of it? He states that, I don't know, I'm not real sure. Let's open it up and see. So he gets the backpack, he opens it up. Inside, they find some of Jessica's clothes. Now, he tells Christina and her friend Leah that another female that was friends with Jessica had dropped the backpack off for Jessica to pick up. And he had just hung it up in the back of the tent so he could give it to her when she showed up.
Likely story.
Yes, it is a little fishy for the fishy guy.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's like, her stuff's right here, no big deal.
No, I forgot that backpack was in there. Yeah, she's coming back.
Yeah, right? I mean, come on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You believe me, right?
You believe me, right? Right. So, as Christina and Leah start going through the backpack. Somewhere in the vicinity of where they are going through this backpack, Christina or Leah one notices a note that is written by Jessica that says, "I heart," and gives old Christmas Light Boy's real name. And he says it's not his name because his name is something else, and it's like Daryl with a Y, but Daryl with a H. And I'm like, really? That's the best you can come up with? It's one letter off? He's stating that his name wasn't spelt that way. His name was spelt one letter different. And I'm like, all right. So the backpack I was kind of going to give you a pass on because you are kind of homeless and she does kind of come seek shelter. But you got a handwritten note, dude, that's got your name on it, basically. But anyway. So this old boy posts on Facebook on March 1st, 2020, quote, "Hey, PJ, I can't believe you are trying to put me in your bullshit, brother." And Kenny sees it and comments on it that he would not stop until Jessica is found. Old Christmas tent light boy or Christmas light tent boy calls Kenny a punk ass bitch and to come on down to the seafood restaurant so he can double tap that head. Actually, he says, "Come on down to the restaurant so I can put you to sleep." Kenny, not to be outdone, tells him that he would beat his ass to sleep and said he would be the Reaper. Now, Jessica and Kenny's friends start commenting on the post, and eventually comments lead to insinuation that the old boy living in the Christmas light tent knows more than he is saying. Some even ask him if he put Jessica to sleep. He responds that he is, quote, "scared of no one because I got skills," end quote.
He must train jujitsu.
I
mean, come on.
I mean, that's the only skills you need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, he doubles down and states that he has been cleared by Albany PD. Strange thing is that the day he posts this is the same day Christina tried to report Jessica missing to Albany PD and was told that she's off doing addict stuff. So there's not really anyone clearing anybody because the police have no idea she's fucking missing. So most of the searches for Jessica were orchestrated by Christina and her friend Leah. Some of the areas searched included the original tent city and the banks of the Flint River. Authorities at this point start running out of leads and the case is starting to turn cold. I have a feeling that it's not that they're running out of leads. It's because they don't do their job. And I will explain further. So Albany PD phones... Albany PD phones Christina and tells her that they have good news. Jessica has been spotted at the Luxury Inn that afternoon between 12 and 1 p.m. They go on to state that Jessica willingly got into a dark-colored Ford Taurus. They even post the same information on their official Facebook page. Newsflash, no one from Albany PD had actually put boots on the ground at the Luxury Inn to verify if she was actually there. They just took the tip and broadcast it to social media and called Christina and said, "Hey, don't worry. We know where she's at. She's at the Luxury Inn. She don't want to be found." Christina loses her ever-loving mind. To say that she was livid is an understatement. She knows that her daughter would not just willingly abandon her daughter and stop all communication with her family. So what does Christina do? She gets in her car and she drives down to the Luxury Inn. There, she finds the girl the tipster said was Jessica. Christina speaks to the girl and then starts asking around. Not only does she find out that Jessica had not been there, she had never been there within the time frame that she was missing.
Oh, wow.
So,
not at all?
Not at all. Not at this Luxury Inn where they're saying that she just got into this dark-colored Ford Taurus.
Huh.
Yeah. So Christina, she smells some fuckery afoot, and she begins to feel that Albany Police Department's trying to convince her that her daughter's just aimlessly walking around the city of Albany, high as a kite, not wanting to be found all the time, not being seen by anyone that is looking for her.
It kind of sounds like they just don't want to do their job.
Bingo.
I'm not saying incompetence. I'm just saying laziness at this point.
Well, it's going to get there. It's going to get damn near borderline criminal. Now, Albany.
Well, at this point, I'm calling laziness. They're just like, fuck it. She's an addict. We don't want to deal with this shit.
That's about what that's how I felt too. That's how I felt too, Coach. You so good at this. So Albany.
Well, I'm the best in the biz,
you
man.
You are, man. You are. Nobody holds a candle to you, brother. Now, Albany tries to tell Christina that they are using all of their resources to find Jessica. Really? All your resources? From what I just read.
Every bit of them, man. Every damn bit of them, man. How dare you question them?
From what I just read, it appears that anyone can fucking call the cops and say, hey, I saw her on the side of the moon, and it really is made of cheese. And they will put it on their Facebook page. Now, if you type into the old Google machine, Jessica VanZant, Dietzel, one of the options in the search is her name with found at the end of it. Why is this an option? Well, because the great geniuses at Albany Police Department put this bullshit tip on their Facebook page, and so that is still a viable search. It was so bad.
So they claim that she was found?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, sir.
What's their, I mean...
That somebody saw her getting a dark-colored Ford.
Wow.
Uh-huh. People. That's people. That's people and police, if you try to say it, both of them at the same time. People around Albany actually believed that Jessica had been found. For fuck's sake, it was so bad that Christina had to go and tell people. She had to put up flyers that she was still missing because there were volunteers that had said they would help come search that stopped showing up because they read on Facebook she was found. So Christina becomes the lead investigator for her daughter's own disappearance. And
wow, that is both sad and insane.
Yes. And she quickly realizes that Jessica's food stamp card may lead to some new information. Christina heads to the local WIC office, and I forget what it stands for. Something wellness, something child, I don't know. But if you
yeah. Food stamps.
Yeah, food stamps. And explains that Jessica had been missing since the middle of February. So this is 1st of March when she goes down there. The people at the WIC office are super helpful. They allow her to sit down at a desk. They pull up Jessica's WIC account, and they see that the last time that it was used was on February 14th of 2020 at the In Market convenience store on Clark Avenue in Albany. Jessica had tried to buy something, but the card was denied due to insufficient funds. Now, I have seen sources state that the card was actually scanned on February 13th at 5:45 a.m. Others state that it was the evening of February 14th. Just for the sake of the argument, we're going to go with February 14th because that's what most articles report. Either way, the store is now an option to go investigate. So Christina heads down there and she gets a little bit of luck, and the security footage is still there. It's not been recorded over. It's not been thrown away. And you can clearly see Jessica walking into the convenience store with her hair pulled back in a ponytail. You can tell that someone is holding the door open for her to walk in, but all you can see is kind of a hand in a dark colored shirt. No one knows whether the individual holding the door was with Jessica or if it was just someone being nice and holding the door for her. But you can see that she is wearing a blue, I've seen it referred to as a tealish green Nike t-shirt, dark jeans, light-colored socks, and black slides. She's also carrying a long brownish to beige purse on her shoulder. With the footage, all of the news outlets are sent her information, and a still from the security camera is immediately aired and printed for the local papers. What was released to the media was the following. 21-year-old Jessica VanZant Dietzel was last heard from in Albany, Georgia on February 16, 2020. It is unknown what color, style, or type of clothing that Jessica was wearing at the time of her disappearance. The name Elena is tattooed on her upper left chest near her collarbone. She also has a nose ring in her right nostril and a stud immediately above her upper right side lip. A lip ring on her lower lip. She has long, straight blonde to brown hair to below her shoulders and has olive complexion. So no one knows what she was actually wearing on the 18th except the guy who she borrowed the phone from. And either he has not been advised to release that information by his attorney, or the great detectives at Albany have not thought to ask. What is odd is that the missing flyer states that she was last seen on February 16th, and we know that she used her Facebook account for the last time on February 18th, which is things that make you go, There was also some other information left off of this official missing flyer that was released to the media. Jessica also, remember, had that Kenny Man tattoo on the opposite collarbone from her daughter's name with the butterfly. She also had a heart tattoo on her hand between her, I think it's her left index finger and thumb. Perfectly flawed tattoo on her right thigh and a large tattoo on the rib cage, which is visible in some of her Facebook photos. The media also reports that she went missing sometime between February 16th and March 1st of 2020. Again, we know that she used old boy's phone to log into Facebook Messenger on the 18th. Now, several sleuthers have suggested that they believe that whatever happened to Jessica occurred on the 18th after 12:30 a.m. and before 10 a.m. when the guy she was messaging tried to call her back. What is extremely odd is that Jessica's mom and her friend Leah went to the Deep South Motel and asked if they had security cameras on the property. They were told no cameras are on the property. Now, I was able to find a podcast that covered this when it was about 4 months old, and Big Mad True Crime Podcast is the name, and the lady that runs that is Heather Ashley. And in one of her episodes, she states that she personally called the Deep South Motel, which has changed names, and asked if they had security cameras pointing towards the main entrance / office and the parking lot. She was told that they do, in fact, have cameras covering both of those areas. She was also told that they have booking information for, quote, anyone and everyone, end quote, that books a room. Heather called in December of 2020. So that's 6 months after the disappearance. So either they were lying to her mom, Jessica's mom, and her mom's friend Lena, or they're lying to Heather. I have a feeling they're lying to her mom, but that's just my own personal opinion. Now, despite Deep South's claim, no one has been able to determine when Jessica was at the motel, if she checked in, how long she was staying there, what room she was in, if she was staying with anyone, if she was going in and out of several rooms, etc., etc., etc. Not to mention, there is only the convenience store security camera footage. Miss Ashley is got a much better crime-fighting brain than I do, and she utilized Google Maps and determined that to one side of the Deep South End was a doctor's office. I think she said it was on the right side of the motel. So she waits and calls the doctor's office during business hours, and they tell her they too have security cameras that face the street. And then Using the old Google machine and the map, she realizes that there is a Hardee's on the other side of the Deep South Motel. And, yep, she called them too. And the lady, the manager, I think is who she talked to, told her that they do have security cameras, but theirs are angled so that they can see the drive-through, but they do kind of catch the intersection in front of the Hardee's. Now, you may be thinking, well, that's great and fine and dandy, but what does that fucking mean? Well, it means that if Albany PD had half a fucking brain, they would have gone down there and tried to find any type of footage to, I guess, verify that Jessica was actually there. But remember, according to Albany PD, she's off doing addict stuff. So on March 5th, 2020, police finally get in touch with old PJ. And remember, he's the old boy that had the trailer, 45, dating, and I do mean, quote, dating, Jessica. Yeah, he turned out to be about as useless as the Albany PD had been. He says that the last time he saw Jessica was February 16th. Now, a credible source who wanted to remain anonymous has gone on record and stated to authorities that she is certain she saw PJ and Jessica together on the 17th. So what we know so far is that Christina lost contact or had last contact with her via Facebook Messenger on February 4th. Jessica was with the Christmas lights tent guy on the 13th of February. She is seen on security camera footage at the in-market convenience store on the 14th of February. PJ is telling people that he was with her on the 16th of February. The anonymous witness says, no, that was the 17th. February the 18th is when we know that she uses some guy's phone at the motel to message another guy where she lets go the, quote, it got out reference. And then that same day on the 18th at 10 a.m., the guy she was messaging tries to call her back, but doesn't get an answer. So sometime between 12:30 a.m. on the 18th and say 10:30 a.m. on the 18th, Jessica VanZant Dietzel just vanishes into thin air. Now, Jessica's mom and her friend Leah and countless other family members, I think they call themselves the JVD Army, would search day after day for weeks on end. And hats off to Leah and Christina because they gave zero fucks when it came to searching. They were knocking on drug dealers' houses. They were going into drug shacks, shotgun houses, tents, homeless people, lean-tos. It didn't matter. If they thought Jessica had been by there, they were trying to talk to people. They even went as far as to wade through waist-deep floodwater from the Flint River. Keep in mind, while they're doing the searches, they are still putting up missing flyers, getting witness statements, recording interviews, you name it. These two ladies and their family and friends were doing it all. They were having to be judge, jury, and executioner. What Christina and Leah have figured out
Did you say Judge Judy?
Judge, jury, and executioner. Judge Judy,
and
the executioner. Yes. Make that a t-shirt. Put that down. We need Judge Judy, the executioner.
That's actually a really good idea.
Now, what Christina and Leah figured out is the circle in which Jessica was running in just before she went missing is the seedy underbelly of Albany. Just about all of Jessica's, quote, acquaintances have a rap sheet. Some of them have active warrants out for their arrest. Some are one more strike away from the 30 to 40-year state prison sentence. So getting this group of people to talk is going to take a monumental effort. Both Christina and Leah feel like there are as many as 3 to 5 people who knew or know what happened to Jessica. They are working on blind faith that they can get one of these people or someone who has heard these 3 to 5 people to talk. Now, Jessica's case was picked up by Dateline, the Oxygen Network, Live PD, and even Nancy Grace.
Fuck Nancy Grace, man.
Top mom.
I mean, I did post about it when they did Keystone Roberts. I mean, it's good to get that out there. I posted it on our private Facebook page. But seriously, fuck Nancy Grace.
She is like over the top, but I have heard, and there's an article that's on the WALB News Channel 10 website that Christina says that Nancy off air, when it was just her talking to her, was super nice. And she said that she even states that Nancy paid for a team of cadaver dogs to come down and help during one of the searches. Now, it didn't happen to lead to anything, but could you imagine having to accept, you think your daughter's missing, and then you have a national reporter paying for cadaver dogs, and so it's got to be a little sobering there. Now, Christina did feel like that with each one of the media programs that featured Jessica's case, Albany PD was forced to put forth a little bit more effort. Just a little bit. Christina had to face the reality that she was probably looking for Jessica's remains at this time, but come hell or high water, she was going to get to the bottom of what happened to her daughter. Now, due to the flooding, the search with the cadaver dogs didn't point to any new leads. Now, Dougherty County Sheriff's Department would join the investigation. Remember, that is the county in which Albany sits in. And for those of you that do not understand small town politics and the power that a rural sheriff possesses, please pay attention. The sheriff is the supreme being when it comes to law enforcement in a lot of rural counties all throughout the South, all across the country. What we have here is a city police department who shit the bed when the disappearance was first reported. You have a neighboring county sheriff that has to get involved to get the Albany Police Department to get off their ass to start an investigation. After several months, you now have another sheriff's office assist the Albany Police Department in an investigation. Now, if you're keeping track, that's about too many swinging dicks at the party. Unfortunately, what is revealed to Christina by one department is not always shared with the other two departments. You then have a hodgepodge of theories and not a cohesive investigation. To prove how big of a shit show this investigation is when it comes to sharing information, the local news channel 10, WALB in Albany, did a news segment on Jessica's case on June the 5th of 2020, 4 months after Jessica went missing. The reporter doing the piece reached out for comment to each of the three departments. Lee County has remained steadfast in their direction that Jessica is in danger and missing. Albany Police Department states what it had previously stated 4 months earlier, and that is, quote, "We do not suspect foul play." That's
right.
That's a good way of saying she's a drug addict and they gonna do what drug addicts do.
It's so sad that's the way they approach it. But it really is. I mean,
yeah. And then you have Dougherty County who don't give a fucking comment at all and just say, we're assisting Albany PD and can't make a comment. Well, here's a grand idea. Maybe you can create what they call in them TV shows an interagency task force that has investigators from all three departments, and they can all be housed at the Albany Police Department, or they can go to the Hardys. They could even go to the Deep South End. I'm sure they can get a fucking room there and maybe put your fucking heads together and get them out of your ass and find this young lady. But I digress. I digress so much that we, despite Coach's best effort, are hitting you with a two-parter in back-to-back weeks. So, yes.
I don't like two-parters. Two potters?
Yeah.
Two parters.
Two
parters. But I think this is warranted. I don't think we need to put out a 4-hour episode, but,
No, I don't either because
it didn't work out the first time.
No, it did not because about halfway through it, everybody's like, is he still talking? But anyway, and then you were like over there rolling your eyes, and I'm like, I
just know I fell asleep at least twice.
I'm trying to drink as many beers as I can to stay awake, and then that gets kind of sideways, and then the audio's off, and then we have to re-release it. So, but anyway, join us next week, and we will discuss the suspects, the rumor mill, and even more fuckery afoot when it comes to the investigation.
Dun, dun, dun.
Ooh, I got that somewhere. Hold on. That ain't it. One hour later.
Surprise, motherfucker.
All right, so join us next week, and we will try to bring you up to speed. I'm pretty sure that if you have half a brain and you're really interested, you can find the same information that I found. We will hold off. Actually, no, I'm going to go ahead and give a recommendation this week. It has nothing to do with the case. I'm going to hold that recommendation for next week. But there is on Netflix a show called Inside Man. And it's kind of like a jail.
You already recommended that.
No, I did not. I did not.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
When did I recommend? Did I? No, I did the Pines.
Recommended it. It was 2 weeks ago. You recommended it after you watched 30 minutes of one show.
You lying
It's got
son of a
Stanley
bitch.
Tucci in it.
You're right, I did.
Yeah. You said Stanley Tucci is on
Son
death
of a
row. And blah,
bitch.
blah, blah.
There you
Come
go,
on,
messing
man.
up my recommendations. It's a good show. I finally powered through the first one. It's kind of messy, but it is a good show. So there, fuck it. I'll do it twice, you bastard. Make fun of me. There, have that. I recommend if you're in law enforcement, don't marginalize people that are fucking addicts. There's my recommendation.
There you go.
And don't eat gravy that you don't make at home. So what's your recommendation, shithead?
I can't believe that about the gravy. Seriously, that sucks. That sucks so much. Oh, I love gravy. I love sausage gravy so much, especially Hardy's gravy.
Or you know what?
I'm
I'm going to call Mama, and I'm going to go up there and see Mama. And, you know, she makes that gravy.
I'll be honest with you.
She makes that gravy, and I asked her, I said, Mama, when I come up there, you going to make that gravy?
My
that sausage
recommendation is a Netflix series called MH370, The Plane That Disappeared. It was recommended by a friend on our private Facebook page.
That anyone can join.
Yeah, that anyone can join, but it's still private. You have to join it.
You have to put some effort forward.
You have to go to groups and type in Mysterious Brews Podcast, all of them, every one of them. You can't just put Mysterious Brew. You got to put the podcast part. But
yeah, we're not that famous yet.
And she posted it, and she wants to talk about it. So I recommend people watching it. I've got it queued up to start when we're done. I'm going to watch it tonight. So,
there was a couple of people that have recommended that Disappearance at the Vatican, but I don't need another rabbit hole to chase. So we shall see. We shall see.
You know what? Speaking of rabbit holes to chase, you know, we haven't covered the Mandela effect yet.
No, but I rocked your world, did I not?
What?
Bob Barker.
No. Yeah. No. Yeah. Yes, you did. But it happened. It happened before when it was his birthday, and that's what I'm going to say. Like, Mandela effect and the lead mask case are probably the two most famous cases we haven't covered yet, and we need to cover both of them. But I 125% became a believer in the Mandela effect when it came to Bob Barker. I know for a fact that son of a gun died like 10 years ago, if not more. He died. He did.
Yeah, and that's when all the ladies came out and like outed him for being a dirty old bastard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, once he passed away, people started speaking out that he was a sexual harasser at work.
And that's when Bill Cosby was like, "Hey, y'all want to try some of this Jell-O?"
But yeah, no, I promise you, I remember vividly Bob Barker dying, but apparently he is not. He is 99 years old and still kicking.
I bet he's sponsored by Blue Chew.
Still, I wish we were. I wish we get some sponsors like that. He's 99 years old, alive, probably still willing to kick Happy Gilmore's ass if we need him to.
Yep, probably so. All right, well, join us next week when we discuss more Mandela Effect things on our Mandela Effect podcast. But no, seriously, we do need to cover that. And after 4 weeks of death and murder and bullshit, I want to get away from it. We'll do the MH370 conspiracy theories. We can get our tinfoil hats on. I'm going to work on
MH370, that's death too. It's a fucking plane that disappeared.
They're all still alive.
They all died.
No, they're all still alive.
Okay.
They landed at Diego Garcia. Look, I'm going to work on our backgrounds so that we both don't fade into oblivion and we can see things. I think our background does look cool. It's just not functional. I know we keep hinting around that we're going to start releasing video episodes, but I do like my little.
I only ask if we're going to do video episodes. You let me know. So.
Oh yeah. I'll
put a T-shirt on and all that shit.
Yeah. I'll have to take my Gardner Minshew headband off. But anyway, all right. So, Coach, you got anything else?
Oh, you know I don't.
Deuces.